Day 252, Ezekiel chapter 40 through 41. This is just the word where we are reading chronologically through the Bible in a year. Day 252 of 365, New King James Version, starting with Ezekiel chapter 40. In the 25th year of our captivity, at the beginning of the year, on the 10th day of the month, in the 14th year after the city was captured, on the very same day, the hand of the Lord was upon me, and he took me there. In the visions of God, he took me into the land of Israel and set me on a very high mountain. On it toward the south was something like the structure of a city. He took me there, and behold, there was a man whose appearance was like the appearance of bronze. He had a line of flax and a measuring rod in his hand, and he stood in the gateway. And the man said to me, Son of man, look with your eyes and hear with your ears, and fix your mind on everything I show you. For you were brought here so that I might show them to you. Declare to the house of Israel everything you see. Now there was a wall all around the outside of the temple. In the man's hand was a measuring rod 6 cubits long, each being a cubit and a handbreadth. And he measured the width of the wall structure, 1 rod, and the height 1 rod. Then he went to the gate which faced east, and he went up its stairs and measured the threshold of the gate, which was 1 rod wide, and the other threshold was 1 rod wide. Each gate chamber was 1 rod long and 1 rod wide. Between the gate chambers was a space of 5 cubits, and the threshold of the gateway at the vestibule of the inside gate was 1 rod. He also measured the vestibule on the inside gate 1 rod. Then he measured the vestibule on the gateway 8 cubits, and the gate post 2 cubits. The vestibule of the gate was on the inside. In the eastern gate were 3 gate chambers on one side and 3 on the other, and 3 were all the same size. Also the gate posts were of the same size on this side and that side. He measured the width of the entrance to the gate 10 cubits, and the length of the gate 13 cubits. There was a space in front of the gate chambers, 1 cubit on this side and 1 cubit on that side. The gate chambers were 6 cubits on this side and 6 cubits on that side. Then he measured the gate, and from the roof of one gate chamber to the roof of the other, the width was 25 cubits, as door faces door. He measured the gate post 60 cubits high, and the cord all around the gate extended to the gate post. From the front of the entrance gate to the front of the vestibule of the inner gate was 50 cubits. There were beveled window frames in the gate chambers and in their intervening archways on the inside of the gateway all around. And likewise in the vestibule, there were windows all around on the inside, and on each gate post were palm trees. Then he brought me into the outer court, and there were chambers and a pavement made all around the court. 30 chambers faced the pavement. The pavement was by the side of the gateways, corresponding to the length of the gateways. This was the lower pavement. Then he measured the width from the front of the lower gateway to the front of the inner court exterior, 100 cubits towards the east and the north. On the outer court was also a gateway facing north, and he measured its length and its width. Its gate chamber, 3 on this side and 3 on that side, its gate post and its archways had the same measurement as the first gate. Its length was 50 cubits and its width 25 cubits. Its windows and those of its archways and also its palm trees had the same measurements as the gateway facing east. It was ascended by 7 steps, and its archway was in front of it. A gate of the inner court was opposite the northern gate, just as the eastern gateway, and he measured from gateway to gateway 100 cubits. After that, he brought me toward the south, and there a gateway was facing south, and he measured its gates, posts, and archways according to these same measurements. There were windows in it and in its archway all around like those windows. Its length was 50 cubits and its width 25 cubits. 7 steps led up to it, and its archway was in front of them, and it had palm trees on its gatepost, on one side, one on this side and one on that side. There was also a gateway on the inner court facing south, and he measured from gateway to gateway toward the south 100 cubits. Then he brought me to the inner court through the southern gateway. He measured the southern gateway according to these same measurements. Also, its gate chambers, its gate posts, and its archways were according to the same measurements. There were windows in it and in its archway all around. It was 50 cubits long and 25 cubits wide. There were archways all around, 25 cubits long and 5 cubits wide. Its archway faced the outer court. Palm trees were on its gate post, and going up to it were 8 steps. And he brought me into the inner chamber facing east. He measured the gateway according to these same measurements. Also, its gate chambers, its gate posts, and its archways were according to these measurements, and there were windows in it and in its archways all around. It was 50 cubits long and 25 cubits wide. Its archways faced the outer court, and palm trees were on its gate posts on this side and on that side, and going up to it were 8 steps. And he brought me to the north gate and measured it according to these same measurements. Also, its gate chambers, its gate posts, and its archways. It had windows all around. Its length was 50 cubits, and its width was 25 cubits. Its gate post faced the outer court. Palm trees were on its gate post on this side and on that side, and going up to it were 8 steps. There was a chamber and its entrance by the gatepost of the gateway, where they washed the burnt offerings. In the vestibule of the gateway were 2 tables on this side and 2 tables on that side, on which to slay the burnt offering, the sin offering, and the trespass offering. At the outer side of the vestibule, as one goes up to the entrance of the north gateway, were 2 tables, and on the other side of the vestibule of the gateway were 2 tables. 4 tables were on this side and 4 tables on that side. By the side of the gateway, 8 tables on which they slaughtered the sacrifices. There were also 4 tables on the hewn stone for the burnt offerings, 1 cubit and a half long, 1 cubit and a half wide, and 1 cubit high. On these they laid the instruments with which they slaughtered the burnt offerings and the sacrifice. Inside were hooks, a handbreadth wide, fastened all around, and the flesh of the sacrifice was on the tables. Outside the inner gate were the chambers for the singers in the inner court, one facing south at the side of the north gate, and the other facing north at the side of the southern gate. Then he said to me, "This chamber which faces south is for the priests who have charge of the temple. The chamber which faces north is for the priests who have charge of the altar. These are the sons of Zadok from the sons of Levi, who come near the Lord to minister to him." And he measured the court 100 cubits long and 100 cubits wide, 4 square. The altar was in front of the temple. Then he brought me to the vestibule of the temple and measured the doorpost of the vestibule, 5 cubits on this side and 5 cubits on that side. And the width of the gateway was 3 cubits on this side and 3 cubits on that side. The length of the vestibule was 20 cubits and the width 11 cubits. And by the steps which led up to it were pillars by the doorpost, one on this side and another on that side. Chapter 41. Then he brought me into the sanctuary and measured the doorpost, 6 cubits wide on one side and 6 cubits wide on the other side, the width of the tabernacle. The width of the entryway was 10 cubits, and the side walls of the entrance were 5 cubits on this side and 5 cubits on the other side. And he measured its length 40 cubits and its width 20 cubits. Also he went inside and measured the doorpost 2 cubits, and the entrance 6 cubits high, and the width of the entrance 7 cubits. He measured the length 20 cubits, and the width 20 cubits beyond the sanctuary. And he said to me, "This is the most holy place." Next, he measured the wall of the temple, 6 cubits. The width of each side chamber all around the temple was 4 cubits on every side. The side chambers were in 3 stories, one above the other, 30 chambers in each story. They rested on ledges which were for the side chambers all around, and they might be supported, but not fastened to the wall of the temple. As one went up from story to story, the side chambers became wider all around, because their support ledges in the wall of the temple ascended like steps. Therefore, the width of the structure increased as one went up from the lower story to the highest by way of the middle one. I also saw an elevation all around the temple. It was the foundation of the side chambers, a full rod that is 6 cubits high. The thickness of the outer wall of the side chamber was 5 cubits, and so also the remaining terrace by the place of the side chambers of the temple. And between it and the wall chambers was a width of 20 cubits all around the temple on every side. The doors of the side chambers opened on the terrace, one door toward the north and another toward the south, and the width of the terrace was 5 cubits all around. The building that faced the separating courtyard at its western end was 70 cubits wide. The wall of the building was 5 cubits thick all around, and its length 90 cubits. So he measured the temple 100 cubits long, and the separating courtyard with the building and its walls was 100 cubits long. Also the width of the eastern face of the temple, including the separating courtyard, was 100 cubits. He measured the length of the building behind it, facing the separating courtyard, with its galleries on the one side and on the other side, 100 cubits, as well as the inner temple and the porches of the court, their doorposts and the beveled window frames. And the galleries all around their 3 stories opposite the threshold were paneled with wood from the ground to the windows. The windows were covered from the space above the door even to the inner room, as well as outside, in every wall all around, inside and outside, by measure. And it was made with cherubim and palm trees, a palm tree between cherubim and cherubim. Each cherubim had 2 faces, so that the face of a man was toward a palm tree on each side, and the face of a young lion toward a palm tree on the other side. Thus it was made throughout the temple all around. From the floor to the space above the floor and on the wall of the sanctuary, the cherubim and palm trees were carved. The doorposts of the temple were square, as was the front of the sanctuary. Their appearance was similar. The altar was of wood, 3 cubits high, and its length 2 cubits. Its corners, its lengths, and its sides were of wood. And he said to me, "This is the table that is before the Lord." The temple and the sanctuary had 2 doors. The doors had 2 panels apiece, 2 folding panels, 2 panels for each door, and 2 panels for the other door. 2 panels for one door and 2 panels for the other door. Cherubim and palm trees were carved on the doors of the temple, just as they were carved on the walls. A wooden canopy was on the front of the vestibule outside. There were beveled window frames and palm trees on one side and on the other, on the sides of the vestibule, also on the side chamber of the temple and on the canopies. May the Lord add a blessing to the reading of the word. That was Ezekiel chapter 40 and 41, day 252.